We're starting this morning off in Bangor, where friends and family of Maine game warden pilot Joshua Tibbetts came together for a celebration of his life. Tibbetts died in a plane crash in the town of Avon last week. His body entered the building yesterday morning by way of motorcade, being saluted by officers traveling from as far as Colorado. Several of his coworkers spoke about his dedication to the Maine Warden Service, highlighting his bravery, but also his ability to bring positivity to any situation. During the service, we heard from his sister, daughter, and wife, among other family members, who all spoke about his selflessness and dedication to his family. His partner, looking back, was grateful that they made the most of a trip that they took last summer.
One of the best things we did last summer was touring the Martin's stores across the state, looking for the best deals and making sure that we had our stamp card stamped so that we...
Oh my goodness. Well, after the service, there was a flyover with bagpipes and an American flag was folded and brought to his family. Joshua Tibbetts was 50 years old.
And a memorial service for Maine's first black lawmaker and founding president of the state chapter of the NAACP was also held yesterday in Portland. Family and members of the public and lawmakers such as Governor Mills gathered to remember the life of Gerald Talbot. He died earlier this month at the age of 94. Talbot was a pioneer of civil rights efforts in Maine. At the service, his grandson, Walter Phillips, spoke of the legacy his grandfather has left.
My son got to cut the ribbon at the school my son attended that was named in his grandfather's honor. And he got to go through that school the entire time. The entire time he went to school, he went to the Gerald E. Talbot School.
Friends and colleagues have described Talbot as a mentor whose influence extended well beyond the State House and into communities all across the state.
We're hearing from Maine Secretary of State Shenna Bellows after a win in court against the Trump administration. The Justice Department had sued the state to try to force state officials to hand over voter registration lists with sensitive voter information such as birth dates, partial social security numbers, and driver's license numbers. Yesterday, Judge Lance Walker granted Maine's request to dismiss that lawsuit. A federal judge in Wisconsin tossed out a similar lawsuit against that state yesterday as well. Now, in the dismissal here in Maine, Judge Lance Walker said, quote, "The United States requests would require me to turn a blind eye to traditional practices of federalism and how those expressions have found expression in American elections," end quote. Walker is a Trump-appointed judge who Bellows has called a straight shooter.
He said specifically that the states are the regulators and administrators of federal elections. Only Congress can change that. And even Congress is limited by the Constitution because our founders understood that under the Constitution, the states should be in charge of elections to safeguard against tyranny by the executive branch.
Well, President Trump has previously raised allegations of voter fraud in Maine and in U.S. elections in general. Maine is the 7th state where his administration's efforts to obtain voter registration lists has been unsuccessful.
The state is upholding its decision to suspend payments to Gateway Community Services, a Maine care provider for people with disabilities. The Department of Health and Human Services says Gateway falsified documents and overbilled Maine Care by $1.7 million between 2017 and 2022. Gateway is appealing that finding and now has less than 60 days to request a hearing for that appeal.
Democratic U.S. Senate candidate Graham Plattner is sharing his preferences for Maine's next governor. At a Hancock County Democrats meeting last night in Ellsworth, Plattner said that he ranked Troy Jackson first. Plattner appeared with Jackson last night as well at a town hall on health care in Portland. He says that he and Jackson are closely aligned on labor and other policies. Jackson had already endorsed Plattner when Governor Mills was still in the Senate race. Both men are backed by Bernie Sanders and will attend his Fighting Oligarchy rallies on Sunday in Orono and Monday in Portland. Plattner also mentioned that his high regard for Shenna Bellows and Hannah Pingree as well.
Those three candidates, all of them, whether it's on issues of democracy and standing up to Donald Trump, whether it's around the environment, whether it's around like broader progressive values, they are the ones that I think most represent my value set and the kind of future of the Democratic Party and future of the American political system that I want to see.
News Center Maine has confirmed with Plattner's team that Plattner specifically ranked Bellows second and Pingree third.
Maine's Chief Deputy Secretary of State is recommending a referendum question not appear on the November ballot. The question asks voters if they want to ban transgender students from competing in sports and using facilities aligned with their gender identity. A judge had ordered the Secretary of State's office to review the matter, and now the Chief Deputy Secretary says that the group that petitioned for the ballot question submitted more than 12,000 invalid signatures. The chief says photo and video evidence shows some petitions were left unattended, which is against the rules, and nearly 2,000 signatures are duplicates. The full recommendation is available on our website. The decision also states that any party may file an objection with Secretary of State Shenna Bellows. Those objections must be submitted by email before Sunday. Then on Tuesday, Bellows is expected to announce her final determination after reviewing the recommendation and any objections. All right, taking a look at some national politics now. Senate leaders have canceled funding votes last night after lawmakers voiced concern about President Trump's $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund.
Yeah, it's the second week that Republicans have pushed back on the president's projects. NBC's Alice Barr has those details.
Fresh off primary victories for Trump-backed candidates, the president is hitting headwinds in Congress, with some Republicans balking at a pair of priorities. First up, a $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund.
This is just stupid on stilts.
The plan to use taxpayer money to pay back people who claim they were unfairly prosecuted under the Biden administration. That could include convicted January 6 rioters the president pardoned.
These people don't deserve restitution. Many of them deserve to be in prison.
The Senate scrapped a Thursday vote on a Republican package to fund ICE and Border Patrol after a closed-door briefing with top Justice Department officials on the anti-weaponization fund left GOP senators with serious questions.
The kind of gut reaction is, that's not right. And if it's not right, we shouldn't be doing it.
Cassidy is one of two sitting Republican senators President Trump opposed in the primaries. Now, with some GOP members of both the Senate and House also objecting to $1 billion in funding for White House ballroom security.
What I do not support is one single dime of taxpayer money going to a ballroom.
NBC News pressed the president on the new fractures.
Are you losing control of the Senate Republican?
I don't know. I really don't know.
The president still has broad GOP support in Congress and has sharply defended his proposals, long railing against Biden-era prosecutions and arguing the White House
Won't be a very secure place
without the ballroom funding. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.